But one of the worst things that somebody could say to me, and my mom would do it every once in a while, parents, you know what I'm about to say. Bill, I'm not mad. I'm disappointed. I think that's the greatest tool of parents, teachers, and coaches, to come up to someone and lay the guilt trip on them. A little bit of shame. I'm disappointed. Because you can't react to that except with shame. If they got angry with you, you could be angry back. But disappointment? Oh man, I let you down. Oh man, how did that happen? Again? Well, I think Peter felt like that. You know, Peter was at the very first Mass. He got his feet washed. He received the Eucharist. He heard Jesus preach about love. And he was so overwhelmed with joy, he said, Jesus, I'll follow you wherever you go. Jesus said, Peter, watch what you say, because where I'm going, you might not want to go. Peter said, Lord, even if it's to death, I'll have your back. Well, he left the upper room. They went out to the garden. Jesus gets arrested, and then Peter is confronted by this big, gnarly servant girl. Aren't you one of his followers? And Peter wilts. He absolutely wilts. And 3 times denies Jesus. And at the last time, as that rooster crows, he makes eye contact with Jesus. Peter, I'm not angry. And he's undone by that. He goes off and he just weeps bitterly. He's crying. So I'm sure that when he was on the boat and he saw Jesus on the shore, he was probably thinking to himself, you know, I don't know if everyone does this, but guys kind of do. When guys get into fights, you know, and they just kind of try to pretend like nothing happened. Hey, let's go out to the game. Let's go out and get some lunch, you know, and they try to pretend like nothing took place. So he swims to shore and Jesus is kind of like, oh, hey, cooking fish, kind of giving him a bit of a cold shoulder. A little passive-aggressive, if you ask me. But Peter is hoping that they can get back to normal again. They can get back to their old relationship. So when Jesus comes up and says to him, hey, Peter is feeling like, okay, we're going to be good again. Do you love me? I can answer that question. Yes, Lord. Of course I love you. Now we can move forward. But Jesus asks him a second time, and Peter's probably thinking, maybe he didn't hear me the first time. I'll just talk a little louder, you know. He's had the whole death thing going on. So, yes, Lord, I love you. But then Jesus asks one more time, and I'm sure at that point Peter, remember how it says he was distressed? I'm sure Peter was just brokenhearted. It was as if Jesus was, reminding him that he had denied him 3 times, but also trying to erase those 3 denials by giving Peter the chance to witness, of course I love you. Now, what's true of Peter is true of me. It's easy for me inside these walls, as a deacon, of course, to proclaim Jesus Christ and stand tall in my faith. It's easy for me in my classroom teaching religion or with my Bible study to talk about my faith. But outside these walls, in the real world, it's a little bit more challenging. And in these political times right now where people are trying to divide us into this or that, it's hard for us to stand up for what we truly believe in, the love of Christ. Do you love me? That's the question. Do you love me? It's harder for us to do that. And I know I stumble and fall, and Jesus is saying, hey, Bill, I'm not angry. I'm a little disappointed. And he gives me another chance to stand up again and witness to my faith. But how do I do that? Well, Jesus gives us a clue. Did you notice when he was talking with Peter, he didn't say, Peter, do you love me? Well, yes, Lord, you know I do. He didn't say, lead my sheep. He didn't say, Peter, rule my sheep. He didn't say, Peter, judge my sheep. What did he say? Feed my sheep. Tend my sheep. Don't make them follow you, because you are going to be following me, and they should be following me too. Now, I see Libby Catalina's back there. Now, Libby, did you run all 3 5Ks yesterday? 4 5Ks yesterday with the Daffodil Parade. You ran those 5Ks. Were you first? Okay. So you were following other people, right? Yeah, okay. You're following other people, and what are they following? They're following the path. They're following the way. What Jesus was saying to Peter, follow the way. Everyone else will be following after. But you're not the leader. I am. What's true for Peter is true for us. Our current Pope, the successor of Peter, Pope Francis, admitted right from the very beginning, I'm a sinner. He bowed his head and he said, please pray for me. And he began to run that race. Not as our leader, but as the one who tends us and feeds us. Francis is trying the best he can to follow Christ, to follow the love that Christ has for each and every one of us, and to witness to that love in the way he lives. So for me, I'm called to do the same, as is Father Jerry, as is our Archbishop Francis. We're called to have the eyes of Christ. But it's also true for every single one of you. Every single one of us gathered in here. We profess our faith here in this room, in this place, but we live it outside these walls. We live it. We profess it. Not by judging, not even by leading, but by feeding and tending. We go forth from here to live our faith by the way we live our lives, with absolute, unconditional love for every single person we encounter. Our families, our friends, everyone. The strangers on the street, everyone. We tend and feed the lambs and sheep of the Lord's flock. Now, easy to say, not always easy to do. And yet Jesus picks us up again and tells us to try again. It's why we come here every week, to hear the word, to receive the Eucharist, because we know that somehow over the course of the past week, we failed a little bit. We fell down once or twice. We failed to follow that lead. We failed to feed and tend. And so we come back and we try again and again and again. So I'm going to ask you some questions here. I'm going to ask you the questions that Jesus asked Peter. And I'm going to ask you to answer. Let's see how it goes. Instead of saying, do you love me? I'm going to say, do you love him? So, congregation of St. Pat's, do you love him? Congregation of St. Pat's, do you love him? Yes. Congregation of St. Patrick Parish on the north slope of Tacoma, do you love him? Yes. Then feed his lambs, tend his sheep, and love and love and love until you can love no more. God bless, and go church.